Ladies and gentlemen, let me start with a simple question. Why do we waste time? It's not because we're lazy. It's not because we don't care. It's because we've never truly understood the value of time, not just as a resource, but as an opportunity. We live in a world that glorifies busy, but rarely celebrates meaningful. Today, I want to talk about 5 powerful ways to stop wasting time and start winning. We live in a world that often obsesses over what we do and how we do it. People talk about routines, hacks, systems, and methods, but very few stop to ask the deeper question, why are we doing it in the first place? And yet, this is the question that makes all the difference. Because when we don't start with why, when we don't anchor our actions to something meaningful, our days can quickly become filled with busy work, not real progress. We end up checking boxes without moving forward. We work harder but feel more tired. We keep ourselves occupied, yet deep down, we know we're not fulfilled. The truth is, time isn't just about minutes and hours. Time is a mirror of our purpose. When we lose sight of that purpose, we lose control of how we use our time. That's how time gets wasted, not through laziness or apathy, but through a lack of clarity. When we don't know why something matters, it's hard to stay engaged. It's hard to stay focused. That's when we procrastinate. That's when we drift. But when we start with why everything changes, think about the last time you were truly energized by something you were working on. Maybe it was a passion project, a new idea, or even helping someone out. Chances are you weren't thinking about the clock. You weren't watching the hours tick by. You were immersed, driven, alive. That's what purpose does. It transforms how we experience time. It brings clarity to our decisions, and it helps us focus on what really matters. Starting with why isn't just about big picture purpose, either it can be incredibly practical. Before you jump into your to-do list, take a step back and ask yourself, why am I doing this? Not in a cynical way, but in a curious way. Why does this email matter? Why does this meeting matter? Why does this task belong on my list at all? If you can't come up with a compelling reason, maybe it's time to reconsider. Because not everything urgent is important. And not everything that screams for your attention deserves your energy. When we get clear on our why, our priorities change. We stop saying yes to everything. We stop trying to please everyone. We stop measuring success by how full our calendar is, and start measuring it by how aligned our actions are with our values. That's what it means to win, to live and work in a way that feels purposeful and true. Starting with why also gives us resilience. Let's be honest, not every day is exciting. Not every task is inspiring, but when you're rooted in a clear why, you can push through the boring days. You can stay committed, not because the work is always fun, but because it's always connected. And that connection is what fuels consistency. So if you want to stop wasting time, don't just get more organized, get more intentional. Don't just manage your time, understand your time. Ask better questions. Dig deeper, get curious about your purpose, even in the small things. When you lead with why, you don't just save time, you give time meaning. And when your time has meaning, that's when you start to win. Not just in your work, but in your life. Because in the end, success isn't about how much we do. It's about doing what matters and knowing exactly why it matters. One of the most subtle and dangerous ways we waste time isn't by doing nothing. It's by waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect idea, or the perfect version of ourselves to show up. We tell ourselves we're preparing, we're refining, we're just not quite ready yet, and before we know it, days, weeks, and even years slip by. But here's the truth we often avoid facing. Perfection is not the goal, it's the excuse. Perfection is a moving target. No matter how much we plan, tweak, or rehearse, it never truly arrives. There's always one more thing we could fix. One more edit, one more delay. We convince ourselves that we're just being thorough, but really, we're just afraid of being judged, of falling short, of not living up to our own expectations. So instead of moving forward, we freeze. But the people who win in life, the ones who create, lead, and make change, they don't wait for perfection. They understand that progress is what drives growth. They ship the idea before it's flawless. They take the leap even when the landing isn't guaranteed. They act not because they're certain, but because they're committed. Progress is messy, it's imperfect. It comes with mistakes, detours, and awkward first steps. But it's real, and real effort compounds. One small step forward is worth more than 1,000 steps never taken, because action builds momentum. And momentum, once it's rolling, is incredibly hard to stop. This isn't about lowering your standards, it's about raising your level of self-trust, trusting that you can figure it out as you go, that even if it's not perfect, it's still worth doing. That the only way to learn how to get it right is to start, get it wrong, and then grow from there. Perfection, on the other hand, keeps you stuck in theory. It keeps your ideas in your head and your talents in your drafts. And while you wait for the right time, someone else is already out there making an impact with version 1.0. Think about the most meaningful accomplishments in your life. Were they perfect? Probably not. But they moved you forward, they taught you something, they shaped you. And that's what progress does. It doesn't just change what you do, it transforms who you are. When we shift from perfection to progress, we start to use time differently. We stop obsessing over every detail and start focusing on delivering value. We stop fearing failure and start embracing feedback. We stop polishing and start producing. And most importantly, we stop wasting energy on things that look good and start investing energy in things that work. Because life doesn't reward perfection. It rewards consistency, courage, and action. So the next time you feel stuck waiting for all the lights to turn green before you move, remember, green lights are rare. You don't need them all to get started. You just need to move, start where you are. Use what you have, get version 1 out into the world. There will be typos. There will be awkward moments. There will be critics. That's fine, that's growth, that's progress, and it's far more powerful than the illusion of getting it perfect. Because winning isn't about flawless execution. It's about bold movement. It's about doing the work, sharing the message, building the thing even if your hands shake a little while you do it. Progress is how you learn. Progress is how you lead. Progress is how you win. So start now. Not later, not perfectly. Just start and keep going. One of the most powerful tools we have for protecting our time, energy, and focus is also one of the most uncomfortable, the word no. It's simple. It's short, but for many of us, it's incredibly hard to say. Why? Because we're wired for connection. We want to be helpful. We want to be liked. We don't want to disappoint people. So we say yes again and again, even when we know it's costing us something. But every time we say yes to something that doesn't align with our purpose, we are quietly saying no to something that does. That's the trade-off. It's not always visible, but it's real. Time is finite. Energy is limited. Focus is a resource. And if we spend those things on tasks, projects, or commitments that don't move us forward, we end up depleted, not fulfilled, busy but not productive, in motion but not making progress. Saying no is not about being rude or selfish. It's about being responsible. Responsible with your time, responsible with your goals, responsible with your values, because if you don't protect your time, someone else will use it for you. And they won't always do it with bad intentions, but that doesn't mean it won't pull you off course. Learning to say no is actually about clarity. When you know what matters most to you, your mission, your priorities, your purpose, it becomes easier to spot the things that don't fit. You begin to see that every yes carries a weight. Yes to one thing often means no to rest, no to creativity, no to family, no to self-care. And if you say yes too often, to too many things, eventually you'll find yourself wondering why you feel so disconnected from the work and life you truly want. Saying no takes courage. It can feel awkward, especially when you're saying it to people you respect or care about. But clarity breeds confidence. The more aligned you are with your values, the easier it becomes to say, I can't take that on right now, or that's not the right fit for me, or simply no, thank you. And what's remarkable is that the more honest you are, the more people begin to respect your boundaries. They may not always agree, but they'll recognize that you are clear, focused, and intentional. And here's something else to remember. Every time you say no to something that isn't aligned, you create space for something that is. Space for deep work, space for genuine connection. Space for rest, creativity, spontaneity, the things that often get pushed to the side in a life that's overfilled with yes. The irony is that many of us say yes out of fear, fear of missing out, fear of conflict, fear of seeming unhelpful. But the truth is, saying yes out of fear leads to regret. Saying no out of purpose leads to freedom. So, the next time an invitation, opportunity, or request comes your way, pause. Ask yourself, does this serve the person I want to become? Does this move me closer to the impact I want to make? If the answer is no, allow yourself to say it out loud, not as a rejection, but as a commitment to something greater. Boundaries are not walls, they're gates. They help keep distractions out and let the right priorities in. And in a world full of noise, full of demands and distractions, learning to say no is not just a skill, it's a form of leadership. It shows you know what matters. It shows you respect your time. It shows you're serious about winning not just in your work, but in your life. Because sometimes the most powerful yes you can give is the one you give to yourself when you finally say no. We live in a world full of noise, pings, alerts, notifications, headlines, messages, endless feeds, all demanding our attention, all pretending to be urgent. Distraction is no longer something that sneaks in once in a while. It's become part of the default setting. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Most of the time, distraction isn't just a tech problem or a productivity issue. It's something deeper. Distraction is often our escape from pressure, from discomfort, from responsibility. It's the easier route when focus feels hard. It gives us the illusion of movement while keeping us from making real progress. The opposite of distraction isn't just focus, it's discipline. Focus can happen in a moment, but discipline is what keeps it going. Discipline is the decision to stay with something even when it's not exciting, even when it's uncomfortable, even when 1,000 little temptations are whispering, just check your phone for a second, or you can do it later. Discipline is the quiet, powerful refusal to drift. And it's one of the most underappreciated skills in a distracted world. The thing is, distraction will always be available. There will always be something easier, something more entertaining, something that demands less of you. But the real question is, what do you want more? Do you want comfort or progress? Do you want stimulation or fulfillment? Discipline isn't about becoming rigid or robotic. It's about choosing what matters most and choosing it again and again and again. A disciplined life is not a life without rest or flexibility. In fact, discipline gives you more freedom, not less, because when you've done the work, when you've moved the needle, when you've kept your word to yourself, then you can rest and actually enjoy it. You can step away without guilt. You can unplug without falling behind. Discipline creates peace. Distraction creates pressure. So how do you begin to replace distraction with discipline? You don't do it through sheer willpower. You do it through design. Set up your environment to help you succeed. Put your phone in another room when it's time to work. Turn off notifications that pull you away from what matters. Use tools that support focus, not ones that encourage scrolling. The more intentional your space, the more intentional your actions. It's also about how you use your time. Block time for the things that move your purpose forward. Don't just react to whatever shows up. Decide in advance what deserves your attention. Make appointments with yourself. Treat them like you would a meeting with someone important because you are someone important. Keep that commitment. And when you slip, because you will, don't shame yourself. Notice it, learn from it, adjust. The goal isn't to be perfect, it's to become more aware. Discipline isn't a one-time decision. It's a series of small choices made day by day that shape who you become. The people who make the biggest impact, who live with the most meaning, aren't the ones who are never tempted. They're just the ones who have practiced choosing what matters over and over, until it became their default. They've learned that discipline doesn't limit creativity, it protects it. It doesn't kill joy, it deepens it. It doesn't make life harder, it makes life clearer. Distraction will always be easier in the moment. But discipline is what allows you to look back and say, I did the work, I showed up, I made something that mattered, And in a world that's constantly trying to steal your attention, the ability to stay present, focused, and committed might just be your greatest competitive edge. We often think of time as something we control on our own, a solo effort, a matter of willpower or discipline, but the truth is, who you spend your time with shapes how you spend your time. The people around you influence your focus, your energy, your mindset, and ultimately, your direction. They can pull you closer to your purpose, or quietly steer you away from it. So if you want to stop wasting time and start winning, one of the most powerful things you can do is take a close look at your circle. The people we surround ourselves with either challenge us or comfort us. They either fuel our fire or drain it. They either push us to grow or give us reasons to stay where we are. It's not always obvious. It doesn't always come in the form of toxic negativity. Sometimes it's subtle people who mean well, but don't see what you see. People who settle for less and unconsciously encourage you to do the same. People who fear change and in their own quiet way resist yours. But when you surround yourself with purpose-driven people, everything shifts. Purpose-driven people don't waste time complaining. They're not perfect, but they're intentional. They ask better questions, they care about impact. They challenge ideas instead of attacking people. They don't just celebrate success, they understand the cost of it. These are the people who will remind you of what matters when you forget. The ones who hold you to your standard, not theirs. The ones who see your potential even when you're stuck in doubt. And here's what's really powerful. Energy is contagious. Spend time around people who are passionate about their work, and you'll feel a spark. Watch how they move through the world, how they talk about ideas, how they show up day after day. You'll find yourself raising your game not because they told you to, but because their presence makes you want to. That's what alignment looks like. It's not about competition. It's about inspiration. This kind of community doesn't just hold you accountable, it creates momentum. When you're in the right circle, your ideas grow faster. Your risks feel a little less scary. Your setbacks feel a little less lonely. Purpose-driven people don't just support your dreams, they remind you that dreaming isn't naive, it's necessary. But this shift doesn't happen by accident. You have to be intentional about it. You have to be willing to let go of some relationships that no longer serve you. That doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop shrinking. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself and others is to grow. And in that growth, you give others permission to do the same. You also have to go looking for these people. They might not be in your immediate circle. You might have to reach out, ask questions, join spaces where purpose is valued. And when you find them, protect those relationships, nurture them, show up for them, because it's not just about being surrounded by purpose-driven people, it's about becoming one too. When you bring your best energy, your best effort, your clearest why, you lift others. You contribute to something bigger. You help build the kind of environment where wasting time becomes nearly impossible, because every interaction is rooted in intention. In the end, time is shared, and who you share it with matters deeply. Choose wisely, build deliberately, because the people around you are either helping you win or helping you wait, and your time is too valuable to wait any longer. There's a simple truth that's easy to overlook. How you spend your time is one of the clearest indicators of what you truly value. Not what you say you value, what you actually do, because time doesn't lie. You can tell yourself that your health, your relationships, your goals, or your dreams are important. But if your calendar doesn't reflect that, then something's out of alignment. And the longer that disconnect exists, the more frustration, guilt, and burnout begin to build. Time is our most honest mirror. It shows us what we're prioritizing, whether we're conscious of it or not. If you constantly say you want to write a book, but you never block time to sit down and write, then writing a book isn't actually your priority right now. That's not judgment, that's insight. It's an opportunity to recalibrate, to stop saying yes to what's convenient and start saying yes to what actually matters. We often get caught up in the trap of "I don't have time." But the truth is, most of the time, it's not about time, it's about choice. It's not that we don't have time. It's that we're giving our time to things that are loud instead of things that are meaningful, things that are urgent instead of things that are important. We check emails instead of reading with our kids. We scroll on our phones instead of starting the project that's been on our hearts for years. We tell ourselves we're just taking a break, but sometimes those breaks become our entire life. What you value should be visible in your actions, not just your intentions. It should show up in your routines, your habits, your conversations. If you say that growth matters to you, are you learning consistently? If you say relationships are important, are you making time to connect? If you say your purpose drives you, is it showing up in your daily decisions? It's not about being perfect. It's not about cramming every second with productivity. It's about being honest. When you look at how you spend your days, are they aligned with the life you want to live? If not, the answer isn't to work harder, it's to get clearer. Because when your values and your time are out of sync, no amount of hustle will make you feel fulfilled. Living with intention means taking ownership. It means asking yourself hard questions and being willing to make changes. It means not just thinking about what matters, but designing your life around it. That could mean waking up earlier. It could mean saying no more often. It could mean finally starting that thing you've been putting off, not because it's easy, but because it's essential. Time is a currency. You're investing it every single day. The only question is, what are you buying with it? Peace, growth, connection, or stress, regret, and burnout. Every hour you give away is an hour you never get back. And while you can't control everything life throws at you, you can control how you show up. You can choose to treat your time like something sacred, not just something to survive. The people who win aren't the ones who do the most. They're the ones who align their time with their values. They're the ones who choose depth over distraction, purpose over pressure, meaning over movement. And they do it consistently, not because it's easy, but because it's worth it. So if you want to stop wasting time, don't just look at your schedule. Look at your heart. Look at your values, look at your vision, and then start making choices 1 hour at a time that reflect who you really are and who you're becoming. Because time isn't just something you manage, it's something you express. It's the clearest statement you'll ever make about what truly matters to you.